Happy birthday, Parkway. I'm Tom Searden, and I wasn't always old as dirt. I can't say that. Happy birthday, Parkway. What's up? Happy birthday, Parkway. You look good. Parkway, it's your day. Celebrate. Happy birthday. All right, I'm back. Oh, what if I just say happy birthday, Parkway? My name is Tom Searden. Happy birthday, Parkway. 1996 was a special year for a lot of reasons. For my family and I, it was a big year because we were just moving to Sugar Land from El Paso, Texas. We were one of those young families. Our children were in middle school and elementary school. In America, there was a Clinton running for the White House again. Bill Clinton had just defeated Bob Dole to win his second term as President of the United States. The Dallas Cowboys were victorious over the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl 30. In Great Britain, Prince Charles and Princess Diana divorced. VHS tapes were on their way to becoming obsolete as DVDs were being launched in Japan. In a 12-month period, internet usage surged from 1 million to 10 million users. Closer to home, a new master plan community called New Territory was growing by leaps and bounds. What was once a field full of cows would soon be a shopping center. And in one neighborhood in New Territory, a young pastor named Paul Kleins was beginning his dream of starting a church in this new community. Paul and his wife Kelly held the first church service in their living room at their house in High Meadows on July 21st, 1996. Some of the people in attendance that day were Cheryl Cordova, Jim and Patty Strain, Celeste and Bob Conlon, Met and Mary Charles Carroll, James and Susan Baker, and Jim Burke and his wife Laura Burke. Paul's first sermon was titled A Purpose-Driven Church. He said that Parkway should be about worship, care, outreach, growth, and service. This purpose or mission of Parkway continues to be the same some 20 years later. Within 3 weeks, the Kleins' home was no longer large enough to hold all those interested in being part of this growing church. Permission was granted and the church began meeting at Walker Station Elementary. By December 1996, an estimated 120 people were gathering on Sunday mornings. Paul Kleins was the pastor, but many others were instrumental in making the early church successful. Wayne Kerr was the first worship leader, James and Susan Baker were the first youth ministers, and Suzanne Christensen was the first church administrator. Marit Hatfield was the chair of lay elders, Dave Engel was the chair of the trustees, and Jim Burke was chair of the finance committee. In the early days of Parkway, there were no buildings for social activities, so many events were held in neighborhood homes. Those of you who were at Parkway during the first 3 years may remember having ice cream socials, breakfast with Santa, helping with Habitat for Humanity, and church picnics. There was a church trip to Astroworld. Christian music concerts were held at Pecan Park. We had garage sales, tea parties for the ladies and little girls. We had a sweetheart ball, which was a Valentine's Day dinner for the sweethearts at Parkway. In order to fulfill the mission of outreach and being of service and also getting to know our community, many kindness outreach events were held. Members wrapped Christmas packages for free at Kmart, and refreshments were passed out at the July 4th celebration at the sports complex. We prepared and passed out free barbecue sandwiches and root beer floats at Pecan Park. We also hosted our first vacation Bible school at that same park. By the end of 1997, we had our first 2 portable buildings set up on our original property at 5225 Homeward Way, where the neighborhood of Cius Ridge is currently located. The buildings were generously donated by the First United Methodist Church in Sugar Land. One building was used to house our church staff, and the other building was used for storage and a small meeting gathering place for classes, youth events, and worship team practices. About the same time as we acquired the buildings, we started looking at purchasing 6 additional acres of property adjacent to the 5 original acres. This land is approximately where our current buildings are located. Dr. Bob Hayes, our district superintendent at the time, said he searched for a word that would describe his feelings about Parkway UMC. He chose the word audacity. He talked of the audacity not only to believe that Parkway could become a reality, but that God could make it happen in a way that no one ever dreamed. He said that anything the church does now and claims in God's name can and will happen. By mid-1998, plans were underway to do a land swap with Mark Burrow, the developer of New Territory. We would swap our original parcel of land for the acreage on the corner of New Territory Boulevard and Homeward Way. Early on, we had lots of land, but no place to hold worship. Being a gypsy church presented us with many challenges, but also with many blessings. Bob Ryan began his career as the original setup team leader and holds that position today. To be on the setup team before the turn of the century, you had to be very committed. We literally had to build a place to hold worship and prepare a place for Sunday school for our children. Originally, everything we owned would fit in the Klein's car and van. We soon grew to need a small trailer. We ultimately found a broken down box truck that served as transportation and storage for all the earthly belongings of Parkway. Setup would start before the sun came up, and those on the team hauling everything to Walker Station Elementary. Our worship service was held at the cafeteria, while Sunday school classes were held on the floor in the hallways of the school. While doing this Sunday after Sunday may have been challenging, we remained a very close-knit group of people. Friendships were made, and many have lasted over 2 decades. Since we all worshiped together in one service, everyone knew each other. Visitors were easy to spot. Our first Christmas as a church was very special. We held our first candlelight service along with many special holidays activities, such as our children's first Christmas pageant. As we neared the close of the end of the century, we held our first capital campaign called Here We Grow to fund our land acquisitions. The campaign was chaired by Jim Morris and Tara Duncan. An exciting kickoff was held at Regal Ranch. During the last year of the last decade, we had grown so much that we had to move our worship service to the club at New Territory. Weekly attendance was in excess of 300. As 1999 came to an end, the world feared its demise because of Y2K. And in America, we mourned the death of Joe DiMaggio. The dream of Camelot ended with the death of John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife and sister-in-law in a plane crash. The country was in shock over the senseless killings in Columbine. We celebrated American Lance Armstrong's first Tour de France win. The Houston Astros played their final game in the 8th wonder of the world, the Astrodome. And at Parkway UMC, with mixed emotions, we wished our first worship leader, Wayne Kerr, a fond farewell as he embarked on his career as a touring Christian music artist. The world was changing rapidly in front of us, and Parkway was poised to be part of a new year, decade, century, and millennium.